please join me for a moment of prayer. Spirit of giving, this is a time of year where we are so used to tapping into our gratitude. And yet for so many, that gratitude is hard to come by. This year, we ask to be giving in any way that we can. Giving of compassion, giving of grace, giving of heart, giving of hope. Some of us may indeed have gratitude to give, and may that gratitude bless those that are without this year. Spirit, bless us to give from the well of whatever we have to give. May something in us, something beautiful, be abundant. May it shine on ourselves and each other so that one of these days we're ready for gratitude once more. Blessed is our giving, and blessed are you. Amen. So this is not going to be a normal Thanksgiving, is it? Most of the time, I would be in the classical UU minister's conundrum as to whether to preach about gratitude as a spiritual practice or the myth of the Thanksgiving story and our call to do the work to reconcile with our indigenous kindred who have been so deeply harmed and for whom Thanksgiving is a day of sorrow. And some have noted that going to someone else's home to spread a potentially deadly disease is in fact historically accurate. But neither of those sermons feels right for this year. I don't particularly want to tell you all to be grateful. In these times, it's more likely to come out as shame if you're struggling. Nor do I think we have the energy to really grapple with Thanksgiving as a myth. We've experienced so much loss, and that isn't what our grief calls out for right now. This is a hard Thanksgiving. And when you're grieving, usually the basics is all we can emotionally afford. And because of that, I've been thinking about the saying, that's just gravy, when something is an added benefit. And how saddened I am that not only are we missing the literal and figurative gravy this year, we're missing the meat and potatoes of Thanksgiving too, because we're missing each other. This is when I rely on my training as a minister to ask what this moment has to teach me. At the end of the day, it's grief we're all experiencing. But to be grateful for grief, well, it feels like we're skipping a few stages in the process. I don't know about you, but I'm not ready for gratitude this year. And I think it's important that you all know that even your minister can feel angry and cheated out of those moments we all cherish. I'm not in New York with my family of origin, watching football, and helping my mom cook way too much delicious food. And the tradition that Mick, Angie, and I have cherished since we moved to California, Thanksgiving at the beach with Mick's dad, aunt, and uncle, is obviously canceled. I think for a lot of people, especially those who are alone or have lost a loved one this year, gratitude is going to feel forced. So for those of you who need it, I want to give you permission to be angry, because we should be angry. We want to be with our loved ones. We want to be able to hug each other. We want to be at the dinner table, avoiding politics, eating and laughing and catching up with all those people we've waited 9 damn months to see. But all that joy has been taken by the pandemic. So maybe this year, let's put gratitude on the back burner. Get back to the basics of Thanksgiving. And you may be wondering, can it really even be Thanksgiving without connection, family, and an overindulgent meal? I think it can. Stripping away the mundane, there's a deeper spiritual truth about Thanksgiving, that it's a day about interdependence. Because all around the country, people share a moment where we're all eating a similar meal. We consume not only the togetherness of our family, but of shared experience. And truthfully, we're sharing in an even more profound experience this year. By remaining isolated or having a modified Thanksgiving, we are participating in a shared loss, but also a shared responsibility for one another. A shared sentiment that our human siblings are worth protecting. We're willing to lose the mundane now to retain the truly sacred for our future. What if this year, Thanksgiving is a spiritual holiday rather than a familial one? I say this year, to honor its complexity, entering into new territory, let's make it a church holiday. This Thanksgiving at 4 p.m., I'm going to lead a very short ritual. And I hope that you'll join me, whether you're in your living room or out for a hike. Because I truly think we need something to mark this day, mark our hopes, grieve our losses, and breathe our way into a new type of living. A way that stops draining our spirits and nourishes us instead. And that's what rituals are for. And what's amazing is that the littlest things can have such a profound impact on our spirits. Most of you know that my pregnancy was high risk, that I had gestational diabetes. So while we sheltered in place, I desperately missed desserts. For so many of us, the past 9 months have felt like different types of sensory deprivation. And I'll admit that having gestational diabetes didn't help that feeling. But it was so low in the list of frustrations compared to the fear of catching coronavirus or navigating childcare when everything was closed. When Phoebe was born, we weren't able to make it a big celebration the way that we would have liked. Most of my pregnancy was during the pandemic, so there was very little to mark normalcy, whatever that means, with an infant. And the togetherness was muddier too. But that first night home from the hospital, I had a cupcake. And that small piece of joy felt like a reminder of all the hope there is for the joys to come. That one bite represented that Phoebe had been born happy and healthy, and that no matter how grueling the next few months would be, our family was complete. So yes, this pandemic is impossibly overwhelming. But there will be another side for us as a community. A side where when we come back together, we won't take it for granted. Where our togetherness won't just be small talk. It'll be absolutely cherished. It will be us spiritually intertwined, interconnected, and living together with a completely new frame. It will be a new sacred space that we enter. There is another profoundly mundane moment that ended up having an incredible spiritual impact. And that was my first shower after having had a C-section. It's funny because washing our hands has become this high-stress activity that we repeat in order to stay safe. It almost feels like we're trying to wash away 2020. But after Phoebe was born, that first shower reminded me that washing is a sacred act. At the end of it, all that is left is us. And ultimately, that's all we need. To enter into the sacred, we only need to remember that we are enough. So, for our ritual, I would like us to share a brief hand washing, followed by the consumption of something you will relish. And you can wash with water, with Purell, or a wipe. The point is that we are enough. And there is beauty and wonder to come that will have so much meaning when we come back together. Jewish custom recognizes hand washing as an important ritual to enter into a sacred space or time. So I want to invite you to join me on Thanksgiving Day to enter the sacred with me over Zoom. I know that the day when we embrace once again is still far off, but maybe that's okay. Because we as a society have a lot of growing to do before we're ready to get from anger to beauty. Our hearts aren't yet in that holy place, but they will be. And that growth, the work of entering and re entering the sacred space within ourselves, that is the gravy. And next year, we're in for a feast. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.